Hello to everyone. My name is Leone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're new here, then just welcome. I'm so happy to have you join us for today. We're going to be talking about 5 facts about Atakapa-Ishak people. Now, some of you may know that this is also the tribe I come from. I remember my elder telling me back in early 2015 or 2014 that we come from this tribe. And I remember I was so ignorant because back then I used to think I was like super pro black. I used to think I was super African. I used to disregard my indigenous heritage like it was nothing. And I remember she told me about this tribe, and I was like, Grandma, we do not come from them. Like, we ain't native, and blah, blah, blah. Giving her the old, you hate yourself speech. I think I didn't say it at that time, but in my mind, I was like, she hate herself because she don't want to claim that she African. But little did I know, my grandma was actually giving me the real name of our tribe because a lot of people know us as Atakapa, but the name that we call ourselves is Ishuk. And not only that, I was questioning her about the knowledge of the tribe, and I was like, okay, well, since you claim that this tribe exists, how do you spell it? Because how you pronounce it is Ishuk. So I was expecting for her to say E, but she says ISH, and right then I was like, okay, I'm done listening because there's no Native American tribe that start with an I. But little did I know there's actually is, and we are ancient people. So I feel really bad, and I always like pray to my grandmother that I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for like judging her because in this video I will talk about how a lot of so-called Black American people disregard their indigenous roots, and even with Ishak people today, we have been heavily reclassified. Okay, a lot of us are known as Creoles, Black, Black Indian, so on and so forth. So we did go through a lot of heavy paper genocide, and I will also talk about that in a minute. But you know what? Let's just get right into this video because yeah, it's a lot that I'm going to share with y'all guys about my tribe because okay, it took me by surprise. Okay, so but first off, I'm going to give y'all guys a brief overview of Ishuk Nation. Okay, we lived in coastal, bayou, lagoon, and lake areas from Vermilion Bay and inlet of the Gulf of Mexico in present day southwestern Louisiana to Trinity Bay, a northeast arm of Galveston Bay in present day southeastern Texas. We are classified as Southeast Indians. Also, not only are we known as the Ishuk people, which translates to the people, okay? And within our tribe, we are known as the sunrise and the sunset people. And descendants of Ishuk Nation could, well, not could, but we still reside in Louisiana and Texas today, as well as other states too. And I know you're probably like, okay, well, how y'all got the Atakapa name? Well, that name was given to us by the Choctaw, okay? It means man eater, and it's because it was reported that Ishak people eating flesh of the enemies. Okay, but there's not much evidence that supports that, if any. I haven't came across a lot of information about it. So, and then again, to the colonizers such as the Spaniards and the French, they were using Atakapa as a slur to call Ishak people. So keep that in mind. And also, just to give y'all background of our culture, we applied alligator oil to protect our skin from the sun and repel mosquitoes. We hunted buffalo as we traveled to the interior plains. We gathered food such as nuts, berries, wild grapes, roots, wild honey, persimmons, and other plants. We were a part of a trade network in the region. We supply dried fish, shark teeth, and feathers to other peoples in exchange for flint, pottery, and animal skins. In the summertime, we wore minimal clothing such as breechcloths. In wintertime, we wore hide clothing. Furthermore, like I was telling you in the beginning, we are known and seen as Creoles or Creole Indian, and we're not even federally recognized. So that puts a lot on the perspective of how our history was preserved as well, because we're not as really well known as Cherokee, but but honestly, when you talk to a lot of so-called Black American people in Louisiana, or even in Texas, you will hear about Ishak people, at least from some of us. So, even though not a lot of people know about us, we are still known to each other. Okay. Sadly, many Ishak people are unaware of their true racial identity or even how to correct it. Okay. So, very sad. So, I know y'all probably like, okay, well, Yona, you said that y'all went through paper genocide and ain't much known about y'all, but why is that? Okay, well, let me tell y'all something. Okay, because when we came in contact with the Europeans, we was not liking it. Okay, Alvar Nunes Cabaza de Vaca and a number of other Spanish, part of the Panfilo de Narvaez expedition of 1528, after being shipwrecked off the coast of Texas, stayed among indigenous people whom Cabaza de Vaca called Han, but are assumed to be Ishuk, although bands of the Karankawa also lived in the vicinity. We welcomed the Spanish survivors at first, but we turned on them because of how they were acting when it came to food. Okay, like they was like competing for food and stuff, and the outbreak of European diseases. Okay, and that was enough for us to be like, yeah, we can't deal with this. And then not only that, with the Indian removals going on, with them removing us off our indigenous lands, we looked at our numbers and was like, yeah, we're not gonna fight. We're just gonna go out to the swamps and just stay there. And that was really smart on our part, because we know that if we was try like to fight the European head on, like it could be a lot of casualty for us. So like many other indigenous tribes, we went to the swamps and just stayed there. Okay, and there was no reported contact for years. 2 centuries later, in 1721, the French explorer Bernard de la Harpe captured some tribal members and took them to New Orleans, but thankfully they escaped. Some years later, in 1729, the Ishok warriors helped the Natchez in their war with the French. Others later became auxiliaries for the French. In the mid 18th century, the Spanish established a number of missions among the Texas groups. In 1779, the Eastern Atakapa supported the Spanish against the British. By the early 19th century, many Louisiana groups had been displaced by French Creoles. Some of them had joined other tribes. All right, and that concludes our brief little history cultural moment right there. But fact number one, Zydeco has Ishak roots. All right, not a lot of people know this, but yeah, Zydeco is Ishak. um, there is this PDF called Popular Music in Indigenous Languages of Louisiana. It was written by Shane Leaf, and he quotes and states, in addition to jazz and Cajun music, there is also a relatively unexplored connection between Louisiana First Nations and Zydeco, particularly the Ishuk, whose traditional lands extend from southwest Louisiana into southeast Texas. The most prominent Ishuk activist of the last 100 years, Hubert D. Singleton of Lake Charles, Louisiana, even titled his magnum opus on the Ishuk, one of several volumes he published on the tribe, the Indians who gave us Zydeco, the Atakapa-Ishak of southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. A glance at the areas from which Zydeco originated in both Texas and Louisiana show a close overlay with traditional Ishak areas, yet discussions of Zydeco, even when ethnicity is mentioned, often has very little, if any, mention of First Nations. This is likely due to general failure to recognize the native aspects of Louisiana Creole culture and ethnicity, as discussed above, a tendency among some to see those who are of African and Native heritage solely as Black, disregarding their native roots, is on display in which such characters are viewed in American culture generally. James Earl Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Mildred Loving, and Crispus Attucks are just a few such people whose native heritage is often ignored. All right, and furthermore, to talk more about Singleton, according to him, the dance could have been of religious nature, as was the dance of Ositat. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Dance to Ositat, dance to the one who stands above. That was the Atakapa's most solemn social, and it featured prayers led by local chief with his arms and gaze on high. Another social was the dance of old people. The historical Isha called it Pumwashwashi. It was a serious affair at which only the old people danced. A third social, one that we know with certainty to have been held monthly, was the dance of the young people. The Atacapas called it She is Show. Furthermore, when the Spanish came to Louisiana in the 1690s, they changed the pronunciation of She is Shoal to Zydeco. Then, when these French first succeeded the Spaniards in Louisiana, they altered Zydeco to Zydeco. And from that form, today's Zydeco derives. Fact 2. The Atacapan language is a part of the Macro-Algonquin language phylum. Now, I know y'all like, okay, how is Ishuk Algonquin, Yona? At that Macro-Algonquin. What is Macro-Algonquin, by the way? Okay, well, let me tell you what Macro-Algonquin languages are, okay, hunty, okay. Macro-Algonquin languages are a part of a major group, phylum, or superstock of North American Indian languages. It is composed of 9 families and a total of 24 languages or dialect groups. Okay, and this includes, of course, the Algonquin. All right, it includes Muskogean with 4 languages, the Natchez, Atakapa, Chitamacha, Tunica, and Tonkawa with 1 language apiece of the same name. The Macro-Algonquin languages were spoken prior to European settlement in eastern North America, from Labrador and eastern Quebec down to the Atlantic Sea coast to North Carolina, around the Great Lakes, west into Saskatchewan. Fact number 3. Head deformation, the reshaping of infants' heads through pressure, was also practiced. Now, y'all, I've been seeing this cultural custom in southern tribes a little more lately. Like, I know I talked about it with Choctaw and with the Mayas and with the Incas, but when I learned that the Ishuk did this, I'm like, okay. I just feel like now a lot of people talk about it. And not only that, but a lot of people think head deformation is only African, like elongating your head is only African, and it's not. If you've been watching my YouTube channel for a while now, I've been talking about this for a minute, so it just, I don't know. I feel like I may come across more information about head deformation if I continue doing more research about indigenous nations, because obviously this is a practice in the Americas that seem to be more common than what people make it out to be. All right, and then fact number 4, Ishak people were mound builders and a part of Mississippian culture. That's right. Now, some of y'all probably have already known that, but just to add on to that info, evidence of mound building indoors in the placing of dwellings of chiefs and shamans on shell mounds. So y'all, I was like, okay, you should make shell mounds, and it's pretty dope, y'all. It's pretty dope. Furthermore, conical dwellings of poles interwoven with vines and sometimes covered with thatch, which smoke holes at the top were situated on these mounds. Okay, and there's a article by the Texas Observer, and it's called "Mapping Indigenous Communities of Texas," Atakapa-Ishak, and it goes on to say the Ishak built mounds tall enough to escape floods and hurricanes in southeast Texas. All right, and they interviewed Mary LeBlanc, um, a retired tribal council member of Ishak Nation, and they asked her, they said, how did the Ishak people come to live in the land currently known as Texas? And can you talk about the sites that are listed on the map. They have a map here. I didn't show it to y'all, but she talks about Bear Creek Mound, okay? She says in Houston, Bear Creek Mound was a very sacred and important place. It sat where Bear Creek Park is today. Once there was a great mound there, which was important to this area. It was the seat of government as well as religion. Bear Creek Mound stood at the headwaters of Buffalo Bayou, which runs through downtown Houston. There were several villages along Buffalo Bayou, and then the mound at the headwaters. Back then, Buffalo Bayou ran crystal clear. Today, it's cluttered with pollution, and you don't want to get that nasty water on you. But in my grandmother's day, it was crystal clear. Buffalo Bayou was named for the millions of buffalo fish which used to live in it. Today, the fish are all gone. Bear Creek Mound was a big mound, 600 feet long and 40 feet high. It served several purposes. It had a flat area on top that was big as a football field. This is where people came together for ceremony. It was a place where we stored our excess produce from our farms and hunting for use in time of need. If there was a crop failure or drought, the top of the mound was the place of refuge to which people went in times of floods or hurricanes. The flood waters never reached the top, and people could camp up there and be safe. The top of the mound was encircled by a wooden palisade, which kept predators and enemies out. The big mound was bulldozed and was lost to us, but the site where it remains very special. So I was like, oh, okay. And of course, they bulldozing our mounds, okay. And this has happened all throughout the Americas because a lot of people be like, oh, is that your mounds? They don't look big. I'm like, well, they're bulldozing them, they're flattening them. And not only that, they're excavating them and taking whatever artifacts they can from it, of course, to make money and just to be mound raiders. Like, it's horrible. But yeah, we did build mounds, and we were a part of Mississippian culture. Well, still are. Okay. And fact number 5: pickled fish, oyster pie, and smoked meats like tasso come from Ishak people. Those are our inventions. So we gifted the world these things. So you're welcome. And that is all for today's video. Thank y'all guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? Because y'all be leaving, don't be subscribing, and that's disrespectful, all right? Don't forget to like, okay? Comment if you enjoyed this video. Hey, and also don't forget to comment any video requests. What videos you want me to do next? You know, I'm all game. You know, I'm here for you, boo, okay? Don't be afraid to tell me what you want from me. I got you. I got you. All right. But that's enough for today. Thank you guys so much for watching again. And until the next time, bye.